The Creel dreadnought blasted Xyloth's cities to rubble as the terrified Binars fled in panic, powerless against the sudden alien attack that threatened to exterminate their entire race. Xyloth, home of the peaceful advanced Binar civilization, burned. Powerful Creel energy weapons rained fire from the massive warship in orbit. Binar anti-spacecraft defenses, designed only for meteors and debris, couldn't even scratch the Creel vessel's shields. Explosions rocked capital city Zinkyria, toppling skyscrapers and sending citizens running through the streets. Creel soldiers in powered armor poured from dropships, gunning down civilians with plasma rifles. Their commander Zorak strode through the chaos, eyes glinting with cruel satisfaction. "Surrender to the Creel Empire or perish," he broadcast on all frequencies. But the pacifist Binars had no military, no weapons to match Creel might. All they could do was send a desperate plea for help into the uncaring void while their world crumbled. By sheer luck, a human exploration craft picked up the distress call. The small crew led by Captain Eric Parker immediately plot-mastered a course for Xyloth, knowing every second counted. Parker transmitted a hail to the Creel dreadnought as they approached. "Unknown vessel! Cease hostilities at once!" Commander Zorak's sneering face filled the screen. "You dare challenge the Creel Empire, human? We'll crush you like insects." "Only cowards prey on the defenseless," Parker shot back. "Leave now or face the consequences." Zorak laughed cruelly and cut the signal. The Creel ship opened fire on the tiny human craft with a barrage of missiles and plasma. But the human vessel nimbly dodged, retaliating with surgical torpedo strikes and precision laser bursts, exposing flaws the overconfident Creel hadn't considered. Smoking and leaking atmosphere, the dreadnought limped into retreat. Cheers rose from the Binars as Parker landed near Zinkyria's ruined center. However, the war had just begun. With Creel invasion fleets no doubt on the way, humans and Binars must now join forces to protect Xyloth and the galaxy from conquest and slaughter. The battle to decide the fate of billions had begun. As the dust settled over Xyloth's broken cities, Captain Parker rolled up his sleeves and got to work. He and his crew joined the Binars in clearing rubble, erecting temporary shelters, and restoring power. Sirius, the lead Binar engineer, took Parker aside amidst the bustle of activity. "Captain, I want to show you something," Sirius said, gesturing for Parker to follow. They entered a makeshift workshop where Binar technicians labored over intricate devices. Sirius picked up a small, glowing power cell. "Our energy storage technology. It can hold 10 times the charge of your best batteries at a fraction of the size." Parker took the cell, eyebrows raised. "Impressive. What about propulsion? Weapons?" Sirius showed him schematics for advanced engines and beam weapons. Parker pored over the designs, gears turning in his head. The Binars were decades ahead of Earth in key areas. If humans and Binars pooled their knowledge. He pulled out his communicator. "Parker to Earth Command. Request immediate dispatch of our top scientific minds to Xyloth. The Binars have tech that can help us beat the Creel, but we need to combine our expertise. Sending specs now." Days later, a human transport landed, and a lean, sharp-eyed man in a lab coat stepped out. Dr. Isaac Sorensen, Earth's preeminent physicist, shook Parker's hand firmly. "Captain, I hear you found some remarkable things." Parker grinned. "You have no idea, Doc. Let me show you." Sorensen pored over the Binar schematics, his excitement growing. He immediately set up a lab with Sirius and the brightest Binar scientists. They worked around the clock, merging human and Binar ingenuity to devise upgrades for ships and weapons on both sides. New alloys for armor, more efficient engines, devastating guns that could slice through shields. In mere weeks, the Alliance had armed itself with the most cutting-edge technology the galaxy had ever seen. Their timing was impeccable. Alarms blared as a Binar scout ship detected Creel forces entering the system, at least a dozen warships led by Zorak's dreadnought, back for revenge. But this time, the Binars were ready. Sleek fighters and frigates sporting hybrid human-Binar tech roared out of Xyloth's atmosphere to meet the enemy head-on. Parker, leading a squadron of human ships, swooped into the fray with guns blazing. The Creel opened fire, but to their shock, their shots splashed harmlessly off the human Binar ship's improved shields. The Allied forces wove through the Creel formation, pummeling the invaders with punishing blasts. Parker zeroed in on Zorak's dreadnought, still scarred from their last encounter. "Light 'em up!" His wingmates launched a volley of quantum torpedoes that punched through the Creel flagship's defenses and blasted gaping fiery holes in its hull. Zorak's ship listed, venting atmosphere and bodies. All around, the Creel fared little better against the Alliance's new technological might. The invaders broke formation, shields failing, hulls breached. They limped into retreat, leaving a trail of burning wrecks behind. Triumph filled Parker as he watched the Creel flee. Humans and Binars had done the impossible. They'd proven that together they could stand against the galaxy's bullies and win. But the glow of victory dimmed as Sirius pulled Parker aside after the battle, his face grim. "I analyzed the enemy ship movements and energy readings just before we engaged them. Captain, they were scouting for something, an anomalous signature emanating from deep beneath Xyloth's surface. Something ancient and powerful." Parker frowned. "What do you mean?" Sirius pulled up an analysis. "These readings, I recognize them from old Binar myths. Legends of a device left behind by an unknown race, capable of tearing holes in the very fabric of space and time. Imagine if the Creel got their hands on it." A chill ran down Parker's spine. He clenched his teeth. If the Creel found this artifact, all the new ships and weapons in the galaxy wouldn't be able to stop them. "We have to get to it first," he said. "Assemble a team. Your best scientists, my most experienced explorers. We're going spelunking." Sirius nodded grimly. "I'll prepare the gear. You inform Earth. And Captain, pray we're not too late." As Parker strode off to plan the expedition into Xyloth's uncharted depths, he couldn't shake the feeling that the battle they'd just won was only the beginning. The fate of humanity and all alien species hung on what they found below. Captain Parker wiped sweat from his brow as he surveyed his team. "All right, folks, this is it. We're heading into the depths of Xyloth. Sirius says these caves go on for thousands of miles, so stay sharp." Dr. Sorensen fiddled with his scanner. "The energy readings are off the charts, Captain. Whatever's down there, it's big." Security Chief Ramos checked her blaster. "Let's hope the Creel don't catch on too quick." The Binar scientist Ekron's eyes darted nervously. "We must hurry. My people cannot withstand another attack." They descended into a yawning fissure, the whir of their boring equipment echoing off ancient stone. The air grew thick and damp as they plunged deeper. Hours passed as they navigated treacherous terrain. Parker's breath caught as they entered a vast underground chasm. A narrow stone bridge spanned a bottomless abyss. "Watch your step," he warned. Halfway across, the bridge groaned. Loose pebbles skittered into the void. Ramos stumbled, nearly losing her footing. Parker grabbed her arm, steadying her. "I've got you. Keep moving." They pressed on through claustrophobic tunnels, squeezing between jagged rock formations. Strange, bioluminescent creatures scurried away from their lights. After 2 grueling days, they emerged into an immense cavern. Energy crackled in the air, but instead of an artifact, they found only a shimmering force field. Ramos frowned at her scanner. "There's something behind it, sir, but I can't get a clear reading." As they approached, the field pulsed violently. Suddenly, a thunderous boom shook the cavern. Blaster fire rained down as Creel soldiers poured in from a newly blasted tunnel. "Take cover!" Parker shouted. They dove behind stalagmites as energy bolts sizzled past. Commander Zorak's gravelly voice echoed. "Surrender the artifact, humans!" Ramos and the scientists returned fire while Parker's mind raced. He eyed the force field, an idea forming. "Cover me!" He attached a quantum charge to a grappling line and hurled it at the field's center. The charge detonated, creating a brief instability. Parker didn't hesitate. He leapt through the flickering portal, materializing on the other side as it snapped shut behind him. He gasped at the sight before him, a colossal machine of alien design, crackling with unfathomable power. Outside, the battle raged. Creel forces hammered the regenerating field, desperate to break through. Ramos and the others were nearly overwhelmed when Binar reinforcements arrived, their energy lances cutting through Creel ranks. Parker's hands flew over the artifact's controls. He rerouted power, initiating an overload sequence. Energies built to critical levels. He had minutes before catastrophic eruption. With no way to escape, Parker made his choice. He transmitted his command codes to Ramos. "It's up to you now," he said grimly. The artifact's power crescendoed. There was a blinding flash, then darkness fell over the silent cavern. The cavern plunged into darkness. Ramos pressed against the force field, her face illuminated by its flickering glow. "Captain," she shouted, pounding her fist against the barrier. The others huddled close, eyes wide with fear. A low hum filled the air. The controls Parker had accessed sprang to life, holographic displays blinking into existence. "What's happening?" Dr. Sorensen asked, squinting at the alien script. Before anyone could respond, a shimmering energy barrier expanded from the artifact. It enveloped the entire section of the cavern where Parker stood. A blinding flash erupted from within, the shockwave rippling against the containment field. The team shielded their eyes, bracing for impact, but the barrier held firm, absorbing and dissipating the massive surge of power. When the light faded, they found themselves unharmed. The artifact, however, was a scorched and twisted wreck. "No!" Zorak's scream echoed through the cavern. The Creel commander ordered his troops to attack the force field with renewed fury. Energy bolts and explosives pummeled the barrier, but it regenerated faster than they could damage it. Zorak snarled in frustration. "Fall back!" he barked. "We can't let the Binar reinforcements trap us here." The Creel soldiers retreated, firing parting shots as they disappeared into the tunnels. As the last enemy footsteps faded, the force field dissipated. Ramos rushed forward, scanner in hand. "Life signs?" Ekron asked nervously. "I'm getting something," Ramos said, frowning at her device. "But it's faint. There's too much interference from the residual energy." They picked their way through the debris, calling out for Parker. A groan answered them. They found the captain slumped against a rock formation, his uniform singed and torn. "Parker!" Ramos knelt beside him, checking his vitals. "How the hell did you survive that?" Parker's eyes fluttered open. He managed a weak grin. "Guess I got lucky," he croaked. Dr. Sorensen shook his head in disbelief. "You stupid, reckless fool," he said, but there was admiration in his voice. "Only you could pull off something this insane." As they treated Parker's injuries, Ekron examined the ruined artifact. "Fascinating," the Binar scientist mused. "The energies here, they're unlike anything I've ever seen. With this power, one could potentially open rifts in space-time itself." Sirius nodded gravely. "A dangerous secret," he said. "One we must protect, together." Parker winced as the others helped him onto a stretcher. "Well," he said, winking at Ramos, "that was fun. What's next?" They began the long trek back to the surface, battered but alive. The true challenge, they knew, still lay ahead. Months crawled by as Captain Parker's wounds healed. He paced the command deck of the human Binar flagship, muscles still stiff but mind razor-sharp. Technicians bustled around him, fine-tuning the integrated systems born from their alliance. A young Binar officer rushed up, datapad clutched in trembling hands. "Captain, long-range sensors just picked up something. It's massive." Parker snatched the pad, eyes widening as he absorbed the readings. A sea of red dots swarmed across the display, each representing a Creel warship. He counted hundreds, then gave up. "Sound general quarters," Parker barked. "I want every ship and defense platform at battle stations in 5 minutes." Alarms blared. Crew members sprinted to their posts. On the main view screen, the stars winked out one by one as the Creel armada engulfed the system. Ships blacker than the void between galaxies stretched as far as the eye could see. Sirius joined Parker, his normally stoic face etched with worry. "We've tripled our fleet since the last attack, but this..." He shook his head. "The numbers are overwhelming." Parker's expression resolute as he studied the tactical holograms. Human and Binar vessels looked like minnows compared to the Creel Leviathans. He ran the numbers, recalculated, then ran them again. The results didn't change. There has to be a way, he muttered, mind racing. His eyes fell on a readout of Xyloth's geological data, then flicked to an energy reading from the artifact's remains. A plan crystallized, terrible and brilliant. "Serious," Parker said, voice low. "What if we use the artifact's power to trigger a planet-wide tectonic event?" The Binar's eyes widened as he grasped the implications. The resulting shockwave, with proper calibration, it could tear a hole in space-time itself. But, Captain, the damage to Xyloth would be catastrophic. Parker nodded grimly. "I know, but it might be our only chance to survive." He outlined the plan to the assembled leaders. Faces paled as the full scope sank in. A fresh-faced Binar officer spoke up, voice quavering. "Even if this works, it may only delay the Creel. They'll return, angrier than ever." Parker fixed the young alien with an iron stare. "Maybe so, but we'll always be ready for them. Humans might get knocked down, but we keep getting back up to defend what's right, no matter how overwhelming the odds against us. That's our burden, and our gift." Sirius conferred with the Binar elders. After tense minutes of deliberation, he turned to Parker and nodded solemnly. "We accept the sacrifice. Begin the evacuation of our world." As ships ferried Binars to safety, Parker coordinated the desperate assault. Human and Binar vessels unleashed pinpoint barrages, destabilizing Xyloth's crust. The Creel, not comprehending the trap, poured fire into the growing fissures. Energy readings from the artifact's remnants spiked. Parker watched the countdown tick away, sweat beading on his brow. At 0, a blinding flash erupted from Xyloth's core. Space itself screamed as reality tore asunder. The Creel armada, caught in the maelstrom, splintered like leaves in a hurricane. Ships vanished into swirling vortexes of fractured space-time, flung across countless dimensions. When the chaos subsided, Parker surveyed the devastation. Xyloth's once verdant surface was a wasteland of magma and ash. Only a handful of Allied ships remained, battered but intact. Sirius stood beside him, eyes fixed on the ruins of his homeworld. He placed a hand on Parker's shoulder. "Our people are scattered," he said, voice thick with emotion. "But our alliance will be the seed that blossoms across the galaxy. We have been humbled, but there is no cause more righteous than defending one's defiant spirit against oppression. That is what your indomitable species has shown us, Captain Parker. Our worlds are gone, but our war has only begun." The view screen flickered, displaying readouts of habitable systems glimpsed through the cosmic scars. Parker turned to his battered crew, steel in his gaze. "We need to start preparing for the Creel's return. They'll come at us again." A predatory grin spread across his face. "And we'll be waiting." Countless light years away, in a pocket of fractured reality, Zorak's flagship drifted. The Creel admiral stood alone on his ruined bridge, surrounded by the bodies of his command staff. Through shattered viewports, he watched ribbons of distorted space-time writhe like angry serpents. Static crackled over the comm system. A familiar voice cut through the white noise. Parker's voice, hard as diamond. "We'll never stop coming for you, Zorak. We're humanity, and we are the righteous fist that puts down monsters like you. Hurt us, and you only make us more determined to shove you cowards into oblivion. That's our promise, that defiant human spirit you'll never tame." As the message faded, leaving only the hiss of cosmic radiation, Zorak threw back his head and screamed. His howl of rage and terror echoed across 1,000 realities, a primal acknowledgement of humanity's unbreakable will.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.